Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'll start with the name of Allah. And I welcome you all to this session of the instructional course on SQUINT today on behalf of the OSP Federal and on this occasion of the 25th Annual Islamabad Conference. So the purpose of this instructional course was to target the young ophthalmologists and to revive and reiterate the importance of the basic methods of assessment and management decisions that we make while dealing with a patient of SQUINT. So today's session will be chaired by our very own Professor Mubashir Jalise. He is the founding medical officer he was the founding medical officer at Al-Shifa Trust from 1991 till 2001. And since then, he has amassed massive experience internationally and nationally, and as a pediatric ophthalmologist and as a known name in dealing with patients with strabismus. Our second panelist would be Professor Khwaja Khalid Shoaib Saab. He is running a bit late, and he'll be here soon, inshallah, to join us. He has also done his fellowship in pediatric ophthalmology and has served as the HOD and supervisor is still serving as a supervisor in pediatric ophthalmology, and is again very experienced and with special interest in strabismus. Professor Hanif Malik has immense experience as a pediatric ophthalmologist and senior consultant working at Al-Shifa Eye Trust in dealing with pediatric patients, and especially those with SQUINT and strabismus, both in the pediatric patients and adults. So like I said, the basic examination in SQUINT assessment, the learning objectives of this instructional course were to highlight how to go about learning these skills and how to train our trainees to view these very important steps in the assessment of the SQUINT, and make sure that they are well aware of their importance and do not miss any of these steps in order for better management of the SQUINT patients. So strabismus is misalignment of the eyes and causing one eye to deviate while the other is focused on an object. The deviation of eyes may be horizontal, vertical, and torsional. Their etiological factors are varied and can present at any age and stage of life. The strabismus patients, when presenting to you, is easy to diagnose that the patient has SQUINT, but depending upon the etiological factors, the management of these patients is very much variable. The most common differentials for strabismus in a general practice that we see are the ocular instability of infancy, in which the mother of a young infant will come to you and tell you, okay, the child is, it seems as if the eyes of the child are not straight. So this ocular instability generally lasts for the first 3 months of life, and usually present as a lateral ocular deviation of less than 15 degrees. If it is more than that, or it lasts longer than 3 months, then it should be reassessed and reevaluated. Pseudostrabismus is a condition, again a very commonly presenting problem, in which unusual facial architecture gives the optical illusion of strabismus. Most often it is the case in children, and the cause may be telecanthus or epicanthic folds securing the nasal sclera. However, this is, even in pseudostrabismus, it has been seen that those cases which were initially diagnosed as pseudostrabismus were later in life developed true strabismus And the incidence of that, the pseudostrabismus patients developing true strabismus or manifest squint was 4.9 to 9.6%. So it's important that once you have diagnosed a child with pseudostrabismus, to counsel the parents for follow-up visits, because in the next few years the child might develop strabismus, which the parents might consider कि जी ये तो हमने दिखाया था, it's nothing to worry about. But follow-up visits will help us diagnose the child whether it's now a manifest squint or not. So the squinting eye, if you see a patient with a squinting eye as a child or an adult, what do you expect? This would be a lazy eye, amblyopia, blurry vision. The patient will be complaining of eye strain or headaches, maybe if it is acute in onset or recently decompensated squint. In paretic squints, double vision, poor or and long-standing cases will have poor three-dimensional vision or decreased stereopsis. Also, the psychosocial aspect of the squint is that there is low self-esteem from embarrassment about how the eyes look, and patients are low in confidence, and they don't do well in their socially. A serious intraocular or intracranial problem may be overlooked if not diagnosed properly, especially if the history is short. If you have a shorter history, acute onset of the squint, then it's very important that हम इसके ऊपर we make sure that we are evaluating the patient thoroughly, and the neurological and eye exam is complete before we declare that इसमें there's nothing wrong with it. So, Dr. Hanif, this is, I would like you to suggest to contribute कि हम history में जो ये history के taking में जो चीज़ें important हैं, you know, when a patient with squint comes to you, and what are the basics that you focus on and while taking history from the patient?
पेशेंट जैसे ही आपके रूम में दाखिल होता है ना बच्चा, तो हिस्ट्री तो उसने देनी नहीं है, तो उसका एग्जामिनेशन जो है दैट स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम द टाइम ही एंटर्स इन योर रूम. सो आई यूजुअली व्हाट आई डू, आई डोंट टेक हिस्ट्री, आई डोंट आस्क क्वेश्चंस, आई स्टार्ट टू लुक एट द चाइल्ड, बिकॉज दैट इज़ द टाइम व्हेन यू कैन मेक things easy for you. And before taking the history, the examination of the child, just looking at the child, we can make things easy. Then there's history, age, and other things which are to be done at that.
Dr. Mubashir, welcome, Dr. Khalid Shoaib. Sir, would you like to add something to the history taking?
Sorry. Regarding history, well, usually I ask when of course, observation is important, and I observe how the child is behaving, whether there is any face turn or things like that. And my usual question is that basically, what's the issue? अक्सर ये होता है कि आप स्क्विंट के बारे में सोच रहे हैं, वो किसी और चीज़ के लिए आए होते हैं, तो पहले ये भी पता होना चाहिए आपको देने के when it is started, how it is started, or is it all the time or sometimes, कब ज़्यादा होता है. और फिर इसमें एक और इम्पॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन जो हम भूल जाते हैं पूछना अक्सर केसेस में, वी आर डीलिंग विद द पेशेंट द होल, एनी हिस्ट्री ऑफ सर्जरी. अक्सर पेशेंट नहीं बताते, और जब आप सर्जरी करने जाते हैं तो फिर आपको यानी कि आपको मिलता है एक सरप्राइज कि यार ये तो
ऑलरेडी
ऑपरेट हुए हुए एंड वक्त के ऊपर आपको अंदाज़ा होता है क्या हो गया. फिर एनी थेरेपी, कोई किस टाइप की थेरेपी है, हो सकता है दे विल पॉइंट टुवर्ड्स पैचिंग, तो आपको अंदाज़ा हो जाएगा ही सफरिंग फ्रॉम एम्ब्लायोपिया. देन glasses, type of glasses, whether they have it or not. And if he's wearing already, then you have to look for certain things in the glasses. Reflection वगैरह सारी चीज़ें इसमें हिस्ट्री में सब पार्ट आ जाता है. प्लस फैमिली हिस्ट्री भी मैटर करती है. समटाइम्स यू फाइंड पेशेंट्स रनिंग द लाइन अपने पेरेंट्स के अंदर, भाइयों के अंदर, फैमिली के अंदर. These all things, they are
I
part
feel
of history.
almost half of your diagnosis is made even with just looking at the child and asking about the history because of the age of the onset and the laterality and also the intermittence or involvement of both eyes or not. So you're very right about the previous history of previous treatment, because recently I got a patient and he was there was marked an isometropia and marked squint, the esotropia in one eye. And when I took the vision was hardly a difference of one line in both eyes, and it did not sit well with me because I thought, okay, this is this does not go with the clinical examination of the patient. The vision is so good in the eye, and that was in a busy morning OPD when the public is rushing in and out of your clinic. So then I went back and took history regarding the treatment and asked him, did you take him, was there any history of amblyopia therapy? And yes. And they were very compliant and they had a very good history of amblyopia therapy for a longer duration, and that turned out that the reason why he had good vision in the squinting eye.
जनरली जो होता है ना स्किंट के पेशेंट के लिए, जो उनकी नानियाँ दादियाँ या महल्ले वाले होते हैं वो ज़्यादा कंसर्न्ड होते हैं बच्चों के बारे में, तो वो पेरेंट्स को बताते हैं कि आपके बच्चे की आँख टेढ़ी है। अब आप पेरेंट्स से आप पूछते हैं व्हेन यू आस्क देम, तो वो कहते हैं जी हमें तो ये ठीक लगता है, हमें तो कोई इसमें ऐसा मसला बच्चे में नहीं लग रहा है। तो फिर देन यू आस्क व्हाई यू आर हियर, वो जी इसकी ग्रैंड
somebody else
told them. So when you ask them the deviation, they don't know where is the eye going, it's inward or outward. So I want to make a point here that photographs from the family.
So previous photographs are also very important.
Are even these days every person has smartphone, so they might have lot of photographs of their child in their phone. So उनसे पूछें कि इनमें से जो डेविएशन आपको लगती है, स्क्विंटिंग आई लगती है, वो तस्वीर हमें दिखाएं. That will.
I think Dr. Khalid, this is a very valid point, because sometimes the parents give history, shorter duration की history दे रहे होते हैं, and again आपका clinical examination आपको ये बता रहा होता है कि this should be of a longer duration, this is something जो congenital होना चाहिए, लेकिन patient का history दे ही नहीं रहा. The parents are convinced कि नहीं जी अभी ये 6 महीने से इसको squint है, पहले नहीं था. So in that scenario especially, अगर आप उसको वैलिडेट करना चाहें और अगर चीज़ अवेलेबल हो, तो देन द प्रीवियस फोटोग्राफ्स इफ अवेलेबल कैन रियली हेल्प. डू यू एग्री?
जी जी, सॉरी अगर मैं कुछ पॉइंट रिपीट करूं. जी, आर ऑब्जर्वेशन स्टार्ट्स व्हेन द पेशेंट एंटर्स द क्लिनिक. सो जो ही दरवाज़ा खुलता है और मरीज दाखिल होता है, तो वी नोट वेदर देयर इज़ एनी एबनॉर्मल हेड पोस्चर, इज़ देयर एनी हेड टिल्ट, फेस टर्न, chin depression, elevation, is there any facial asymmetry, and whether there is some neurological problem, dementia, बच्चा delayed milestone वाला है, चल नहीं पा रहा. So all these things we note as the patient enters the clinic और स्टूल पे बैठता है, उतनी देर में हमारी बहुत सारी assessment हो जाती है. So coming to the point, the first thing मैं agree करता हूँ कि complaints अब हमें नज़र आ जाता है स्क्विंट है, द पेरेंट्स आर नॉट कंसर्न, तो वाई वी शुड गो फॉर द ट्रीटमेंट. वो उनको समझाना अलग बात है, लेकिन आर द पेरेंट्स और द अटेंडेंट्स रियली कंसर्न्ड विद द स्क्विंट, या वो किसी और मसले के लिए आए, तो ये ज़रूरी है. और बाकी जिस तरह आपने कहा कि जी फ़ोटोग्राफ की अब बहुत इंपॉर्टेंस है, रेडली अवेलेबल हैं, और फैमिली हिस्ट्री बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है. मैं ये कहूँगा क्योंकि जनरली ये बहुत सारी जो स्क्विंट हैं वो फैमिली में उसी तरह चल रहे होते हैं. XT है, ET है, एकोमोडेटिव एलिमेंट है, तो वो सारा वो आ रहा होता है पेरेंट्स से, तो इसलिए उनको क्या ट्रीटमेंट मिली थी ये भी इम्पोर्टेंट है. सो हिस्ट्री ऑफ ट्रामा, स्पेशली ये जो हमारी फोर्थ नर्व पाल्सी है, सुपीरियर ऑब्लिक पाल्सी, इसमें तो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. द कॉमनेस्ट कॉज ऑफ द सुपीरियर ऑब्लिक पाल्सी इज़ ट्रामा. सो ये चीज़ें मेरा ख्याल है पहले ऑब्जर्वेशन, फिर कंप्लेंट्स और फिर हिस्ट्री, मैं इस सीक्वेंस में चलता हूँ।
बिल्कुल सही। थैंक यू वेरी मच। जस्ट टू रिवाइज, हम लोग जब इन डिस्कसिंग अबाउट द हिस्ट्री टेकिंग जब होता है तो वी नीड टू फोकस ऑन द एज ऑफ द पेशेंट, द एज ऑफ ऑनसेट एंड ड्यूरेशन, बिकॉज acute onset जो है that can be a red flag, because like in children, strabismus is one of the most common presentations for retinoblastoma. So we have not, if you have not seen the funnel glow, or you have not seen the posterior segment of the patient, and you have not taken the history, and you do, and parents Basafa history is another point that I want to make here, is that history you have to correlate it with the clinical findings. Sometimes history is misleading, or with experience you learn, but if you have some suspicions, you can always go back and re-examine the patient. Visual problems, if the child has any, if there is history of any glasses, previous amblyopia therapy or previous surgery, systemic history, any associated muscular dystrophies. In adults, if there is any metabolic or disease like thyroid disease or myasthenia, systemically taking any medication for that. और if there is family history, siblings के अंदर अगर squints हैं, या इससे previously other related family members, and also like Dr. Khalid said, trauma. So all these, this is the basic minimum जो history में है, जो all these points should be taken before we move further on.
One point, actually I am more interested in vertical squints, वो मेरा favorite topic है. So history of variability of squint and history of fatigability, ये दो questions तो मैं ज़रूर करता हूँ कि ये squint कब से है और क्या इसमें कोई कम ज़्यादा होता है, और to rule out myasthenia. So myasthenia can be put in differential diagnosis of any squint. So वर्टिकल स्क्विंट में ख़ास तौर पे मैं थायराइड का ज़रूर पूछता हूँ, और ट्रॉमा, ब्लो आउट फ्रैक्चर एंड माइस्थीनिया. मेरा ख्याल है एक साथ साथ इंटरेक्शन भी करें. आप में से कोई चीज़ एम्फसाइज करना चाहें सर शफीक, हिस्ट्री में कोई चीज़ जो आप समझते हैं इम्पोर्टेंट है?
माइक
already undergone surgery, the first thing that you dig out from them that the patient has undergone surgery. And in grown-up girls and boys, if they have already undergone surgery in the past and many years back, they do not have any record of it. That's a very tricky point, and you must always try to find out what has been done in the surgery while you are completing your history.
That's right.
Ask from them the surgical notes. If they do not have, then there is one trick. They ask them to bring the photographs before surgery and after surgery, and that will give you a real clue whether this squint is residual or is consecutive. Because in both ways the treatment or the procedure which you want to opt are different, and that's why we must try to find out. And if you fail in that, then of course in examination you can make some decision कि पहले रिसेशन हुई है कि रिसेक्शन हुई है, इंसियन साइट्स कहाँ पे हैं, वो उसके बेस पे आप कुछ फैसले कर लेते हैं. लेकिन it's always good आप send them back to home for the next time to come with the notes, and if they do not find the notes, make them clear that if you come without the notes, do try to bring photographs before surgery and after surgery. So that really helps you to make a final decision what steps you want to take next.
Thank you very much. It's a very valid point.
And excuse me, one thing more, if there is a history of surgery, I think it's always better to examine closely on slit lamp,
Yes.
just to see what is the site of surgery and where is is the muscle. Sometimes it has slipped or it has been recessed and surgery is telling something else and situation is telling something else. So that's very important to you should also examine on the slit lamp to see where is the muscle.
That's in the examination part then.
Yeah.
लेकिन history के हवाले से भी बात कर रहे थे.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the pseudostrabismus.
Yes.
One should not take it light because when you take it light, the patients take it too light. So sometimes what happens, you declare the patient that he or she has got pseudostrabismus, nothing will happen, and he or she will come out of this strabismus. But after some time, when they come just for some other problem, and you detect that the patient is amblyopic in one eye, and there is the actual strabismus has developed.
Yeah.
So पेशेंट को आप छुट्टी ना करें कि जी बस ये सूडो स्क्वेंट है और ये बस ठीक हो जाएगा. जरूर ये बता दें कि we have to
many studies have
follow
been
this patient
done on
up,
this,
and we have to examine this
Exactly,
patient after 3 months or 6 months or whatever, and
Very
you keep
true.
on examining, and sometimes the patient develops true strabismus.
So I think the consensus here on this point would be कि हम patients को ये कह सकें कि the squint is not present at the moment, but it might develop later. So you need to come back for your follow-up visits. So because like I said earlier, 4.9 to 9.6% incidence has been reported, incidence of true squint, of manifest squint in patients who were initially diagnosed as pseudostrabismus cases.
One more thing, if there is pseudostrabismus, maybe we will cover in refraction part also, but in a case of pseudostrabismus, do cyclorefraction. That will help you, Dr. Mubashir's favorite Bruckner test. You will rule out amblyopia after cyclorefraction, and do cycloplegic refraction in pseudostrabismus also. Don't leave that patient that no, it's pseudostrabismus and no problem, but do cyclorefraction.
Sometimes with cyclo, true strabismus comes out in cases of pseudostrabismus. So I think it's very important to do always cycloplegic in cases of pseudostrabismus before just discharging them from the clinic.
Because when you're relaxing, the accommodation
yes,
may be
definitely.
good. So the next point of examination is vision assessment in patients with squint. Slide लगा देंगे. So vision assessment, sometimes we take that also हमारे technicians vision ले लेते हैं और बाज़ दफ़ा the vision is not very reliable, and especially in children. So in children the vision assessment is both a science and an art, and specific tests that are needed to get the vision assessed in different ages of the patients, both in the pre-verbal and verbal group of the patients, are not available, always available to in clinics to people, and then the vision is not assessed properly. So there is a very gross vision assessment most of the times, and in follow-up visits then it becomes difficult whether the amblyopia therapy that you have, your patient is using, the compliance and all these aspects, whether it's benefiting the patient or not. So I think it's very important कि हम vision के ऊपर जब भी हमारे पास सामने आए, either we take the vision in squint patients ourselves, or make sure that the person who is taking vision for us, especially in the younger age group, have good knowledge of what they are doing, and it is reliable vision assessment. One of the most difficult things is getting a monocular vision assessment done in a child, because the moment you patch the one eye to get the monocular vision, the child becomes irritable and can, the vision assessment test just stops there. And it is especially so if you are occluding the good eye. So I will, the panel discussion is open for, sir, आप बताइए कि vision assessment के ऊपर any points that you want to make?
This is the first step in the assessment of squint. See, visual assessment is the first step in the assessment of squint, because whatever the squint is, we don't want to ignore the amblyopia aspect. We want to improve the vision also, because the treatment of squint will not be complete if the vision is subnormal. So our first attempt is to restore the vision, and secondly we address the squint. So this is the first step. So I usually start with the Bruckner test and have a rough assessment whether there is hypermetropia or myopia. And of course this, it's good that you should do it, but you can't do everything. So probably the orthoptist should be trained to assess the vision. And of course, as squint surgeon, you are the boss. You have to train your orthoptist to check the vision properly, and in complicated cases on uncooperative patients, then you take over. So a teamwork is required.
For my vision assessment, what I do, I just observe the child with the deviation. If he is alternating, you cannot quantify vision in like pre-verbal children or someone like that. But if the child is freely alternating, I assume that vision is good in both eyes. And if he is, if there is dominance, if he is constantly seeing at me with the right eye and left eye is deviated, then the vision in the left eye is poor. So I observe the deviation in assessing the vision in pre-verbal children most.
These are very important clinical signs in judging the laterality of where the vision would be affected. But quantifying the vision, I think you would agree, is also should be attempted, and you know, it should be. We should make an effort to do that, and it is only the thing that you are saying is in very young children.
In
that's
very
what
young
you're saying.
children, of course, in very
Yes.
young children.
Okay.
And another important thing is that tendency in busy clinics, especially while our paramedics are doing the infections and vision taking, they might take the vision binocularly. It is
Yes.
very important to emphasize them that they have to take vision individually in both eyes.
Because when you're
separately.
taking
Because
binocularly,
many
you're
times-
taking
because
the
it's a basis of what
vision of the good eye only. The binocular vision is
generally मतलब कि ये ठीक है, ये six दोनों आंखों से पढ़वा के ये ठीक है, but
सही।
मतलब this should not be done. Direct, if someone else is doing the vision taking, then you have to be careful about it.
the slide please. So जो हम बात कर रहे हैं अभी, the good vision in both eyes. If like Dr. Hanif said, if you have good vision in both eyes, so and you have squint, so इसका मतलब यह है कि the person or the child is freely alternating, and there is no suppression or amblyopia in either of the eyes. However, if there is asymmetric best corrected visual acuity, then again you have to see what type of squint could be associated with that. Dr. Khalid, would you like to comment on asymmetric vision in squint?
You are right, we should document the vision. Because as I said, this is of prime importance in squint cases. Later on, when we come to cover uncover test, when you cover one eye and the other eye takes up the fixation, you can have a rough assessment what is the vision, because the speed with which the recovery occurs and the extent to which the recovery occurs also tells you whether if the eye is slow to move, it is amblyopic. If it moves fast to take up fixation and there is sort of straightening, then it is having good vision. So we always, the vision is always number one thing. I agree.
So the point here is if the asymmetry is less, like 1 to 2 lines, then we can assume that this is an alternating squint with dominance in one eye. But if the vision is very bad in one eye, and then it's more likely that it is a unilateral squint. So here हम जब dominance की बात कर रहे होते हैं तो how to look for it? This is a simple test that we can do while performing cover and cover tests. So you ask the child to fixate, cover the the good eye, and the deviating eye would fixate, and when the fusion is broken, you want to know कि ये दोबारा fixation वो लेती है, stay करती है through the blink or not. So here again I would play this video and you can see you cover the good eye, the fixation ली उसने और blink के बाद उसने दोबारा dominant right eye के अंदर fixation वापस ले ली. So this is the dominant, so here you can see that this is the right dominant eye. In the other case, fixation ली and blink के बाद भी fixation maintained रही. You ask the patient to blink so that, and for the other eye as well, you can see that the fixation is maintained in both eyes alternatingly. So this is a co-dominant case in which both eyes are equally dominant, and this is helpful in also planning your surgery. If you are planning to do surgery on one eye, you can always go on the non-dominant eye. The next step in our assessment would be the extraocular movements. Extraocular movement in children is sometimes assessment of the extraocular movements is quite challenging. Sometimes what I like to do is I ask the mother to hold the infant and stand up, and I walk around her. So when I walk around her, the child also is turning his or her head, but also moving the eyes to the extreme to fixate on a target that I'm holding in my hand. So that sometimes is really helpful, at least in judging the horizontal extent of the movement of eyes in both eyes binocularly. Also, in very small infants, in which sometimes especially in infantile esotropia, for instance, when you have cross fixation and there is a suspicion कि ये abduction affected है, the eye is not moving outwards, then doll's eye जो head के movement है वो आप करवा सकते हैं और उसमें भी आप उसमें helpful हो सकता है. So, Dr. Mubashir, would you like to comment on how to look for, how to assess the extraocular movements?
Well, in small children, as you have said, that you can move around the child, or you can just doll's head movements, or you can use any fixation targets, but it's important to check movements in all cases. And
Yes.
it's very important to do it in every case. Because I have seen cases where there is a case of esotropia, you say, well, it's esotropia, all right, and you don't check him, and at the end it comes out as a case of Duane. And many times I have seen that people have missed Duane because they never check the
Extraocular movements.
extraocular movements. The up shoots and down shoots, and then restriction of the movements. There's any V pattern, you can have to check the patterns by chin up, chin down, gaze ahead, gaze side, gaze. So there are many ways to look for abnormal things, and you can see it. You have to be very thorough.
Very thorough.
Overactions also, inferior oblique or underactions also, you can need to see and know the overactions.
Restrictions.
Restrictions, overactions of the muscles.
Dr. Khalid.
So, Hirschberg and cover tests to me should be the first step. And So we can debate on what should be the first step, but I usually perform the Hirschberg and cover tests first and then extraocular movements. Well, both are equally important, I must say. I agree all the points. In the primary position, you cannot check the inferior oblique overaction, A pattern, V pattern, Duane. So you have to move in different directions and see what is the pattern in different directions. So this is...
While checking the versions in all the directions, you should have the knowledge of what muscle you're looking at in that direction. You know, if your right lateral gaze, you are checking the right lateral rectus and the left medial rectus, and the opposite in the opposite gaze in the left gaze. Also, when you're looking up, what are the elevators that you're looking, or the dextro elevation or the levo elevation? Again, dextroversion and depression and levo depression. So it is the muscle that you're looking for, the muscle that is underacting or overacting in its field of action. It will give you an idea about the diagnosis. Again, the divergences, especially in adult patients, convergence and divergences, and the deductions are also very important. यानी कि आपने monocular जो उनकी extraocular movements हैं, उनके ऊपर ज़रूर focus करना है. Once you have done the binocular versions, you should go, you should always cover one eye and measure the deductions in both, see the deductions, whether it's any limitation, if there is any limitation there. So, so the 9 gazes here, the child was very cooperative, and we were able to, and that another thing is not to do it with a torch or a pen light, and should be done with the target in your hand, which is the right way to do it. And here you can see up and right gaze, and now the depression, dextro and levo. So commenting on the saccades and pursuit is also pursuit movements of the patient that you are examining is also very important, because in incompetent squints, where there is, if there is paresis or restriction, the saccades would be affected, and this will also clinically tell you about which eye to examine or investigate further. So coming to the light reflex test, the Hirschberg test is one of the basic tests which tells us a lot about the deviating eye. Hirschberg is one test that we all are doing, and because of that, it gives us a very quick and idea about the type of squint and the amount of strabismus present in the eye. When I take hold of the ophthalmoscope in my hand, I do the Hirschberg and also see the fundal glow along with it. So it also gives a fair idea whether there is a media opacity or element of sensory amblyopia, or and because of that strabismus or not. So when you are doing this Hirschberg test, and we know that each 1 millimeter of deflection is equivalent to 7 degrees or about 15 prism diopters of deviation. So when it is primary gaze made central, then there is no squint, and if it is at the border of the pupil, it is around 7 degrees or 15 prism diopters, and then between the pupil margin and the limbus, it is around 25 to 30, and at the limbus, it is about 45. So would you like to add something to it, the panel, please?
You see, this is the simplest and most, I would say, useful observation, Hirschberg test. in 1 second you appreciate whether the eye is out, in, up, down, or in many cases there are a combination of horizontal and vertical deviation. The eye is down and out. So in that case, the light reflection would be at the supranasal margin of the pupil. So it is the combination of horizontal and vertical deviation occur in many cases, like in third nerve palsy, and so you appreciate both the horizontal component and the vertical component in 1 second by Hirschberg test. So this is my first step in the assessment of squint.
Any comments from the audience? जी slide लगा दें please.
Thank you very much. I think
Slide display कर दें please.
this is the Hirschberg test is the most important test in squint assessment, especially in the children, because they don't, you cannot, they don't obey your commands. So you have to, I think most of the squint tests in the children are objective type.
Yeah.
So the subjective you can only do on those who can understand what you are saying. The visual acuity and this deviations in the children, the Hirschberg test is very important. The other is that with the Hirschberg, you can do it on even those who are insane, they cannot understand. So this is, I think, the most important test, doing a light reflection test. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next, the Bruckner test, the red reflex test, and it is going to be talked about later by Dr. Mubashir in detail. But it is like Dr. Khalid Shoaib also said, it's one of his favorite tests, and many of us use that to have an idea about the refractive error in the eye and the presence of the squint in the dominant eye. So it would be in the Bruckner's, the principle is that the deviating eye would have a brighter reflex. The red reflex would be brighter in that eye. And also regarding the refractive errors in Bruckner's, we can see that hyperopia, it has a brighter crescent inferiorly, whereas myopic refractive errors give us a superior brighter crescent. So coming to the assessment of squint patients, we start with the cover uncover tests. These are two tests, actually, the cover and uncover, and it is done simultaneously. Here, as you can see, when you cover, you should cover the fixating eye. In this case, this is an intermittent exotropia. And when you're covering the eye, you're looking at the uncovered eye. And then when you uncover, you're looking at the eye that was covered. So the point to understand here is, when you cover, you're looking, you're fixating, you're observing the movement in the uncovered eye. But when you uncover, you will look at the eye that was behind the cover. And in both instances, you would like to see whether the eye takes a fixation after the cover is removed. Anybody who would like to comment on this cover and cover findings in this case? From the audience, please.
See, as I said before, after Hirschberg, this is the most useful test. If an eye is divergent, let's say, the important point is we cover the fixing eye, this one. So we cover the fixing eye and see in which direction the other eye is moving, one, how fast it is moving, two, and whether it has moved to primary position or state position or not. So direction of movement tells you whether it is a convergent squint or divergent squint. The speed tells you the visual acuity of that eye, and if the eye is statent, it means the fixation is foveal. If the eye recovery is 50%, it means there is extra foveal fixation. The VN is not good. So with covering one eye, the deviating eye should be observed for its complete recovery or incomplete, and the speed. So this is important.
I think we are running short on time. We'll just move on to the next slide, please. After the cover-uncover test, we performed the alternating cover test, and then the slide पे display रखें please kindly. So here, as you can see, in the previous जब cover and cover में दिखा रहे थे, तो उसमें जो right eye थी वो it took longer to fixate than the left. तो उसी टेस्ट से हमें आइडिया हो रहा था कि जो इसकी लेफ्ट आई है वो दैट इज़ द डोमिनेंट आई. Once that is you have seen the manifest tropia with cover and cover, then going on to alternate cover, आप उसमें tropia and phorias दोनों को वो observe कर लेते हैं, and then you want to quantify the squint, and this is done with the help of the prism cover test. The apex is kept towards the deviation, and the power of the prism is increased till there is no movement in the eye on alternating cover test. Here the patient being examined was examined in the primary gaze, the up gaze and the down gaze. This also tells us about any A or V pattern associated along with this. Again, the prism cover test should be performed for the near and for distance also in all cases, because this will also help you diagnose various types of squints, like divergence excess kind of intermittent exotropia, or whether the patient has associated high ACR ratio or not. Coming next to the Krimsky test or the modified Krimsky test, इसमें भी हम जो attempt कर रहे होते हैं quantify करने के लिए with the help of the prisms and the reflection test. लेकिन the thing is कि when to do this, when to do Krimsky test in uncompetitive children, and also when the eyes are when the patient has very low vision in the eye and cannot take up fixation, we cannot perform PCT on them, and then therefore the next thing to do is our Krimsky. Stereoacuity in strabismus is affected, and it should be measured. This gives you a measure of whether binocularity is present, or of whether the stereoacuity is stereopsis is reduced or not. With the presence of squint or refractive errors, the big issue in management is amblyopia. So whether it is an amblyopic strabismus or a strabismus resulting as a result of amblyopia because of the presence of sensory deprivation due to high refractive errors or media opacity, that is to be seen, and accordingly one has to decide whether to treat the amblyopia first or the squint first. I would like to go to the panel to kindly do a short discussion on this.
I want to comment on the prism cover test. Mostly pediatric ophthalmologists are sitting here, but for general ophthalmologist, Hirschberg is very important, but try to learn with prisms. Try to make your decisions on deviations when it is measured with prisms. That's what I want to say. Second thing, patching. When we will start patching? Generally, what I do, if the patient comes to me, I do cyclorefraction first. I give the glasses. In the first sitting, I give glasses and I tell them that you come after 2 months, 3 months, 4 months time, and then I assess the VN again, and then I start patching, because you don't know that whether this VN is improved with glasses or with patching. So that's my method. Some friends can add in that.
You know, also that when you give glasses for the first time, his visual level may be very low, and you may put him on too much of a burden by patching for too many hours a day. But if he wears glasses for 2-3 months and then you find that his vision has improved considerably, then he may not need that half-day patch, maybe 2-hour patch would be sufficient. So that's a very important point which Dr. Hanif has made, that first you give glasses, especially of course where you see that there is a very deep amblyopia, then of course you go with the patching straight away. Or in cases where you can see that you want to wait for a couple of times, then it is possible.
Also, those of us who are prescribing patching in glasses to children would understand that the compliance is a big issue. And if you are prescribing both the glasses for the first time and along with that patching as well, you might be doing a big disservice to the parents and the children, because there would be no compliance. So, like Dr. Mubashir and Dr. Hanif said very rightly, we should prescribe the glasses first, give the child and the parents time to adjust, and be comfortable with wearing glasses full time before assessing whether the child needs amblyopia therapy or not, and then going for amblyopia therapy thereafter. Thank you. But how much and how long, that is a question in amblyopia therapy that is often frequently asked and frequently thought about by the care providers. I think age is one factor, and the other is the density of the amblyopia. Both of these factors will affect the amount of amblyopia therapy that is needed and the duration of the amblyopia therapy that is needed. I think this Dr. Mubashir will also talk about it. I'm trying to hand over the podium to him. Just making one point here, when to stop amblyopia therapy. When to stop amblyopia therapy. We always talk about doing amblyopia therapy, but stopping is equally important, and how to stop is also something that we should know.
So when there is unequal visual acuity, corrected visual acuity, we have to start patching. So I ask the patient to return in 2 to 3 weeks, and we reassess. If the VN has improved and there is still disparity in the VN of the two eyes, we continue patching. Ask the patient to come again. If there is no improvement on 2 visits in spite of patching, then I will stop patching. It is no more required. Till the time the VN does not improve to the other eye's level, I will continue the patching. So 2 follow-up visits, if the VN is not improving with patching, I will stop patching.
Duration, sir?
Duration, till the time the VN is improving, I will continue patching. If one eye is having 6/6 VN, other eye is having 660 VN. After 2 weeks, the VN improves to 624. I will say, okay, continue for 2 weeks. VN improves to 6/18, continue. 6/12, I will say continue. 6 partial or 6/9, let's say. I will say continue. Next time the VN is same, I will say continue. Next time the VN is same, I will say stop. So if on 2 visits of patching the VN is not improving, then I would declare, okay, the patching is no longer required. So this is my policy.
Well, first I think the most important thing to decide is whether the patient is amblyopic or not. sometimes we just forget to look at to see the fundus. He might have a lesion on the macula or some other problem, and he may not be amblyopic because and we just continue patching and doing all that, and he's not improving. This
I've
is one
seen a
thing.
few cases like that.
This happens. It has happened with me also. There's no problem with that. And second thing is that how much to do and for how long to do. Well, frankly speaking, I am very aggressive in this matter, and I usually continue whatever is the result. At least in age 12 years, I continue with patch. और फर्स्ट सेकंड थर्ड विजिट पर इम्प्रूव नहीं हो रहा तो देन आई जस्ट सी कि वेयर इज द प्रॉब्लम, कि पैच ठीक हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है, पैच कितनी देर हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है, और अगर नहीं हो रहा देन आई विल गो फॉर पैरालाइजेशन. अगर मैं समझता हूँ कि इट्स ड्यू टू एम्ब्लायोपिया और कोई और रीज़न नहीं है तो मैं उसे आई विल नॉट लेट इट गो. और वंस ही फॉर एग्जाम्पल इम्प्रूव इन 6 months टाइम टू 6, even then I will ask him to do some sort of patching till 12 years of age, because I have seen patients who have improved and then some other one told them that there is no need for because child is okay, and they stopped it, and after 1 or 2 years then child came back again to that again situation position 0 where it started. So I have seen cases. So I am, frankly speaking, I am very conservative, and
Yes.
patching is 1 to 2 hour, no, half day, at least full day, or full day on weekends, and penalization in summers. That's my routine basically.
Even if the child is improving or has, in your opinion, he is improved, then do weaning of that patching.
Yes.
And
Don't-
maybe till 12 or 12
Yeah,
years I
don't stop patching at once. That your child is improved, so no need of patching. Maybe after, like Mubashir said, maybe after 1-2 years, he will come again with you with reduced BA.
So during the weaning period, it's important that you follow up the patient and take vision. If the vision has started dropping again, it will give you an idea that you cannot stop the patching. And you have to keep it at a minimum level where the vision remains the same in both eyes, or at its best, wherever, whatever we can achieve. We have very limited time, so I would like to request Dr. Mubashir Jallis, our chair, to come and conclude the session and also share his experiences and pearls of wisdom with us. Thank you.
Well, it's a very basic thing, and आप बहुत से लोग सुन चुके हैं, बहुत से बच्चों ने शायद ना सुनी हुई चीज़ें, and
10-7.
आप कहेंगे ये क्या
कोई
मतलब
बात
कि
नहीं,
हाई फाई
10:30
बातों के
sessions
बाद
हो
इस
गए।
किस्म की बातें करेंगे.
फिर ठीक है.
लेकिन let's just a few words about diagnosis of defective errors in children, and then a few words about glasses. So, इसमें किधर इसको? Well, refractive errors, it's very important to detect them in children because they can affect visual development and they are associated with deviations. Anisometropia can be easily missed, and it can lead to amblyopia, which is not detected, and of course they can lead to deviations. Then presentation, of course we know headaches हैं, difficulties स्कूल से खबर आती है या कहते हैं जी कोई टीम आई थी आजकल, इसका बहुत अच्छी बात है, स्क्रीनिंग होती है, लोगों ने चेक किया था, उन्होंने बताया जी अंदर ख़राब है, फिर वालिदैन नोट करते हैं कि टीवी के बहुत नज़दीक जाता है, आंखें ऐसे कर करके देखता है, आंखों से पानी आता है. इसके अलावा फिर आपको हिस्ट्री मिल जाती है. बाज़ दफ़ा बहुत से लोग आते हैं कि जी इसके बड़े भाई की ऐनक लगी हुई है, मेरे ऐनक लगी हुई है, मैं चाहता हूँ कि मेरे बच्चे को चेक कर लें कि इसको तो नहीं है कहीं. और बाज़ दफ़ा जस्ट सिंपल रूटीन चेकअप पे भी आपको पता लग जाता है. और उसका क्या होता है कि many times it happen, I will come to that again later. एक टेस्ट जो हर्शबर्ग बर्कनर जो है मुझे बहुत पसंद है स्क्रीनिंग टेस्ट के तौर पे. एंड whenever children come to me, whether they are coming for infection के लिए या एक दो छोटे बहन भाई आए हुए हैं साथ में, तो I always do Buchner on them. And many times I have found children with anisometropia and high refractive errors just by looking at their fundus, and they had not presented to the clinic as such. मतलब छोटा भाई जो है वो बड़े भाई के साथ आ गया तो उसको वैसे आपने पिक कर लिया. इवन माई कोलीग्स चिल्ड्रन आई हैव फाउंड आउट. या और किसी और कंसल्टेशन के लिए आए हैं, उसकी खारिश होती है, आँख के अंदर पानी आता है, आँख चिपकी हुई है, और आप जस्ट देखते हैं तो आप पता था कि यार इसकी तो नज़र भी कमज़ोर है. तो ये सारी चीज़ें आपको कोई चांस मिस नहीं करना चाहिए किसी बच्चे को डिटेक्ट करने का. तो वैसे आप ये क्या करते हैं, यू डू कॉमन रेटिनोस्कोपी करते हैं या ऑटो रिफ्रैक्शन करते हैं. लेकिन अगर मैं आपसे कहूँ कि जी कि ये सारे लोग जो बैठे हुए हैं, आप मुझे 5 मिनट में ये बताएं कि जिनमें से कितनी की नज़र कमज़ोर है, हाउ कैन यू डू दैट? ऑटो रैफ करेंगे तो कम से कम 1 घंटे से ज़्यादा लगेगा, रेटिनोस्कोपी करेंगे तो आपको कुछ चीज़ें चाहिए और कम से कम आपको फिर घंटा लग जाएगा। एक और टेस्ट है सिंपल, ब्रुक्स ने जो पहले भी बात की थी कि उसमें क्या है कि आपको जस्ट हैव अ लुक एंड 90% केसेस में आपको पता लग जाता है कि इसमें सिग्निफिकेंट प्रॉब्लम है कि नहीं है, which is very important in case of children because it is related with the development of squint, development of amblyopia and or other problems. So it can be performed in just a few seconds and just a direct ophthalmoscope and eager worker is required. मतलब आप करना चाहते हो और आपके हाथ में ऑप्थेल्मोस्कोप होनी चाहिए। अब इसमें जैसे हम देखते हैं इसके अंदर, तो इसमें जो बुकनर टेस्ट है, जैसे हमें पता है आमतौर पे जो आपने पढ़ा होगा कि जी कि जब आप लाइट मारते हैं तो उसके अंदर आँख के ऊपर तो द डिवेटेड आई इज ब्राइटर, दिस इज़ वन थिंग विच इज़ वन प्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ बुकनर। एक्चुअली बुकनर ने यही डिस्क्राइब नहीं किया था, उसने बाकी और चीज़ें भी डिस्क्राइब की थी, सब बिग आर्टिकल है इसके ऊपर उसका। लेकिन एक और इसमें चीज़ ये है कि अगर आप उसे माइन्यूटली देखें, इवन अगर डिविएशन नहीं भी है, तो यू विल सी सर्टेन चेंजेस इन द रेड रिफ्लेक्स। उसमें आपको एक क्रेसेंट नज़र आएगा ऊपर की तरफ या नज़र आएगा नीचे की तरफ, और मे भी थोड़ा सा साइडवेज भी हो सकता है। अगर ऊपर क्रेसेंट है तो इसका मतलब है कि द चाइल्ड इज़ हाइपरमेट्रोपिक, उसकी नंबर प्लस में है। अगर उसका नीचे है हाइपरमेट्रोपिया ऊपर, और अगर उसके माइनस में है नंबर तो आपको क्रेसेंट नीचे नज़र आएगा। नीचे वाली पिक्चर में आप देखें, यू सी क्रेसेंट इन द लोअर हाफ ऑफ द प्यूपिल, इन द अपर पिक्चर यू सी द क्रेसेंट इन द अपर हाफ ऑफ द पिक्चर। और ये एक्चुअली जो पेशेंट है, ये ऊपर वाला बच्चा है, मुझे ये अच्छी से याद है कि ही वाज +6 diopter in both eyes। तो इस किस्म की पिक्चर आपको मिलेगी, दिस इज व्हाट वी सी। फिर इसमें आपको ये भी, यू कैन इवन हैव द असेसमेंट, ग्रॉस असेसमेंट कि हाउ मच कितना है। मतलब मेरा असेसमेंट ये होती है कि अगर वो 50% ऑफ द पीपल को कवर कर रहा है तो तकरीबन 5 to 6 नंबर उसका होगा। अगर वो 75% कवर है तो कम से कम 7-8 नंबर होगा। अच्छा, इसमें जितना ज़्यादा बड़ा एक्सप्रेसेंट होगा, जितना डिम होगा, उतना ज़्यादा नंबर होगा। जैसे रेटिनोस्कोपी आप करते हैं तो यू सी नंबर ज़्यादा हो तो क्या होता है, आपकी मूवमेंट भी स्लो होती है, उसका रिफ्लेक्स भी डल होता है। द मोमेंट यू कम टू द पॉइंट जहाँ पे कि उसका न्यूट्रलाइजेशन हो रही है, तो आपने देखें उसकी मूवमेंट भी फास्ट हो जाती है, उसका जो रिफ्लेक्स है वो भी ब्राइट हो जाता है। द सेम थिंग हैपन्स हियर ऑल्सो। नाउ हाउ कैन इट हेल्प? जैसे मैंने कहा, इट्स अ वेरी गुड स्क्रीनिंग टूल। आप 2 मिनट में पूरी क्लास के अंदर चेक करके बता सकते हैं। मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द पेशेंट आप पिक कर लेंगे कि किसके अंदर क्या है। और अनदर थिंग इज इम्पॉर्टेंट विच आई यूज इज, बस एक बच्चा मेरे पास आया, मैंने उसको ग्लासेस दिए हुए हैं, आई जस्ट हैव ए लुक एंड आई फाइंड आउट कि जी इस आंख के अंदर अगर ये मायोपिक है तो इसका नंबर जो अभी भी रहता है जो मुझे देना है, कि ये हाइपरमेट्रोपिक स्टिल देयर इज सम नंबर विच आई डू। बच्चा आपको दिया, उसको सपोज इस हाइपरमेट्रोपिक, आपने उसको कम्युनिटी इज़ोट्रोपिया की ग्लासेस दी है, नेक्स्ट टाइम आता है वो ठीक नहीं हो रहा, थोड़ा सा भी है, आप देखते हैं तो देखते हैं कि एक आंख में अभी भी आपको कैसे नज़र आ रहा है। इट मीन्स ही नीड्स मोर नंबर इन दैट आई। एक पेशेंट आता है आपको कहता है जी मुझे आंख से नज़र नहीं आ रहा, या इसमें सर में दर्द होता है, आप देखते हैं तो आप पता लगता है कि वेदर इज़ अंडर करेक्टेड और ओवर करेक्टेड। तो सिंपल चीज़ें हैं जो आपकी बहुत ज़्यादा हेल्प कर सकती हैं। सो इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट केसेस ऑफ डिटेक्शन ऑफ, ये देखिए अब एनिसोमेट्रोपिया आप देखिए इस बच्चे के अंदर, यू कैन सी दैट इन द राइट आई द क्रेसेंट इज लार्ज, इन द लेफ्ट आई इज स्मॉल, द चाइल्ड इज सफरिंग फ्रॉम hypermetropia and there is anisometropia, and of course he is amblyopic. And I have not asked any question to his parents, I have not talked to the child, I have not taken his reflection, visual acuity. Just by look I can see कि क्या इसके हो रहा है। ये देखिए इसके अंदर आप देख रहे हैं, अब इसमें राइट आई इज हाईली मायोपिक, लेफ्ट आई इज नॉर्मल। और भी आपने चाइल्ड से बात नहीं की है। मेरे पास एक दफ़ा एक आए थे पेरेंट्स अपने बच्चे को लेके, मैंने उसे देखा, मैंने कहा कि जी आपके बच्चे की राइट आई जो बहुत ज़्यादा वीक है, माइनस का नंबर है, उसका ये मसला है। तो उन्होंने ऑप्थेल्मोस्कोप को पकड़ लिया, कहते डॉक्टर साहब ये क्या है? मैंने क्यों? कहते जी ये चीज़ हमें फलां साहब ने 5 घंटे बाद बताई थी, आपने अभी बता दी। बिकॉज व्हाट दे डिड, उन्होंने उसको बच्चे को देखा, उसकी विजन ली, उसकी रिफ्लेक्शन की, इसके बाद उसको डायलेट किया, उसके फिर सब कुछ किया, 5 घंटे बाद उन्होंने बताया जी यदि आँख कमज़ोर है, ये नज़र नहीं आ रहा है, ये मसला है। एंड आई जस्ट डिड दैट टेस्ट। मतलब दिस डजंट मीन कि आपने यही कुछ करना है, मतलब दिस वन थिंग विच हेल्प्स यू अ लॉट। मतलब मैं सीधी बात है कि अब मैं ओपीडीज के बगैर नहीं कर सकता। अगर ऑप्थेल्मोस्कोप नहीं है मेरे पास तो आई एम जस्ट, लगता है कि जैसे कि आधा काम जो है मेरा बीच में ख़राब हो गया। दूसरा है कि जो असेसमेंट ऑफ विजन की बात हुई थी, तो ये जाहिर है कि यूजिंग मैं वैसे आमतौर पे मेरे पास बहुत ज़्यादा सोफिस्टिकेटेड इक्विपमेंट नहीं है, लेकिन वन थिंग विच आई फाउंड यूजफुल इज़ कि मैंने एक चार्ट बनाया हुआ छोटा सा, उसको मैंने कैपिटल लेटर्स जो ज़्यादा यूज़ होते हैं उनको मैंने टाइप करा के उसको मैंने कराया हुआ, उसे मतलब जो इसके कर देते हैं प्लास्टिक कोटिंग। बच्चों से मैं मैचिंग कराता हूँ, वो कहते हैं डॉक्टर साहब को तो पढ़ने नहीं आता, लेकिन दे आर फिगर्स, उन्हें पता है कि ई की शेप है, इस शेप की चीज़ वहाँ पे कहाँ है, यहाँ पे कहाँ है। तो मोस्ट ऑफ द चाइल्ड जो कि इवन स्कूल गोइंग नहीं भी हैं, मेजॉरिटी ऑफ देम वो बड़े आराम से विजन दे देते हैं। इवन 3-3.5 साल का बच्चा भी बता देता है, इससे छोटे बच्चे भी बता देते हैं। दिस इज़ वन थिंग यू कैन डू, एनी बॉडी कैन डू, वरना आप कहेंगे नहीं जी इसका तो कुछ नहीं सकता, बड़ा होगा तो हम देखेंगे, अभी तो बता ही नहीं सकता ये। तो ये सारी चीज़ें आप कर सकते हैं। इसके अलावा फिक्सेशन पैटर्न है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। जैसे अभी इन्होंने बताया था, बड़ी अच्छी वो वीडियो थी इसमें कि जब उन्होंने कवर टेस्ट किया तो एक आँख की जो मूवमेंट थी इट वॉज क्वाइट बेटर देन द अदर आई, इट वॉज कमिंग टू द सेंटर बट इट वॉज अ बिट स्लो। तो दीज थिंग्स पॉइंट आउट कि ये कौन सी आँख एम्ब्लायोपिक है, कौन सी आँख ठीक है। ये सब चीज़ें आपके जहन में बेसिकली रजिस्टर होनी चाहिए जब आप देख रहे हो कि पेशेंट के अंदर क्या है, और आपकी कहानी बननी चाहिए कि मैं इस तरह से लेके इसको चलूँगा। इसके अलावा जैसे एनासोमेट्रोपी की मैंने बात की, तो इसके अंदर आपको फ़ौरन पता लग जाना चाहिए कि ही इज़ इट मे बी एम्ब्लायोपिक, और सिग्निफिकेंट इफेक्टिव एरर है तो जाहिर है कि फिर भी आपको बहुत ज़्यादा उसमें। अब इसमें एक चीज़ याद करने की है कि एम्ब्लायोपिया जो है इट कैन अकर वेरी अर्ली इन एनासोमेट्रोपिया इवन विद अ डिफरेंस ऑफ +1 डायोप्टर, और समटाइम्स बहुत डेंस होते हैं ये। और इसके अलावा ये है कि उसकी वजह क्या होती है कि बिकॉज चाइल्ड इज़ नॉट फोकस्ड फॉर नियर और फार, और इसके मायोपिया में नज़दीक के लिए देख रहे होते हैं, तो आपने देखे अक्सर एम्ब्लायोपिया माइनस वालों में नहीं होता अनटिल अनलेस उनमें बहुत ज़्यादा एनासोमेट्रोपिया ना हो। इसके अलावा कॉम्बिनेटेड स्क्विंट हो सकता है, स्क्विंट जो है वो खुद एम्ब्लायोपिया की तरफ लेके जाता है। अच्छा, अब इसमें जस्ट एक फ्यू वर्ड्स अबाउट द ग्लासेस। ग्लासेस जो है वो सिंपल पहनना कि जी ग्लासेस पहनता है ठीक नहीं है, काफ़ी नहीं है। फिटिंग ऑफ द ग्लासेस जो है वो अब उसमें कहते हैं कि ग्लासेस को आंखों को कवर करना चाहिए। कैसे कवर करना चाहिए? एक तो तरीका ये है, अब आप ये देखिए इसमें दिस इज़ कॉल्ड मिड ब्रिज, आंख कवर हो रही है और आई लैशेज इसके आईब्रो तक कवर है, और बच्चा बिल्कुल शेप भी ठीक है, इसकी साइज़ भी ठीक है, और आंख भी कवर्ड है और आंख इन द सेंटर है। दिस इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। ये देखिए ये एक और ग्लास है इस तरह का, बच्चों के ग्लासेस इस तरह के होने चाहिए, याद रखिए। अदरवाइज क्या होगा, यू विल फाइंड दीज टाइप ऑफ ग्लासेस। ग्लासेस आर बिग बट वेयर आर द आईज एंड वेयर इज द सेंटर। नीचे वाली का पिक्चर देखें, उस बच्चे को देखें वो कहाँ से देख रही है, जस्ट लाइक जो मुंशी होते थे ओल्ड इंडियन मूवीज़ के अंदर उसकी तरह से। मतलब आपने बेसिकली उसको ग्लासेस पहनाए हैं, शी शुड लुक थ्रू द ग्लासेस, ना कहाँ देख रही है वो। तो इट्स इज़ वेरी कॉमन कि देखें इसमें अब ये सारी चीज़ें आपको नजर आएंगी। इसमें मुख्तलिफ जो दरमियान वाली बहुत अच्छी ग्लासेस हैं, दूसरी वाली इससे बेहतर है। फिर ये देखिए और ये देखें। अच्छा, अब तीसरी चीज़ जो है बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट वो है सेंट्रेशन। दिस इज़ अ बिग प्रॉब्लम। मैं हर बच्चे की ग्लासेस चेक करता हूँ एंड 90% केसेस में आई फाइंड एम डिसेंटर्ड, और अच्छी खासी मुसीबत होती है बच्चों को, देख कहाँ से रहे हैं और नज़र कहाँ से आ रहा है। एंड अगर नंबर ज़्यादा है तो व्हाट विल हैपन, इट विल इफेक्ट रिजल्ट इन इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ प्रिज्म इन द ग्लासेस, तो विजन की ख़राब होना शुरू हो जाती है। ये देखिए, अब आप देख रहे हैं ये खातून ने एक तो फ्रेम बहुत बड़ा पहना हुआ है, और बाकी काम जो है वो ऑप्टिशियन साहब ने कर दिया। उन्होंने देखे कहाँ जाके सेंटर लगाया है। उस बच्चे को देखें आप, ग्लासेस ठीक है लेकिन सेंटर कहाँ लगा हुआ है। अच्छा, ये देखिए सेंटर इसमें आउट है, बच्ची कैसे देख रही है, जस्ट सी। अब ये बेसिकली शी इज ट्राइंग टू लुक थ्रू द सेंटर ऑफ द लेंस, उसे गर्दन उठा के बाकायदा देखना पड़ रहा है। शी इज़ नॉट सफरिंग फ्रॉम कोई से निस्टैग्मस वगैरह, कोई ऐसी चीज़ नहीं है, ये सिर्फ इसकी वजह से ऐसा हो रहा है। ये देखिए, अब इसमें ये हाई इसका वो है और शीशा सारा नीचे है, और सेंटर उसका कहाँ पे है। अच्छा, ग्लासेस जो हैं वो स्क्विंट के अंदर भी हेल्प करते हैं उसे कंट्रोल करने में। अब ये देखिए, यू कैन सी ए लार्ज एंगल एक्सोट्रोपिया विद प्रॉपर ग्लासेस एंड रिमूवल ऑफ इफेक्टिव एरर्स, और मे बी ए सम इंक्रीमेंट इन द नंबर, द चाइल्ड इज स्ट्रेट। ये देखिए, सो दिस इज जस्ट फ्यू एक बेसिक जो मेरी मतलब कि जो चीज़ें थी उसमें मैं जस्ट वांटेड टू से अ फ्यू वर्ड्स अबाउट इट। सो आई होप कि कोई चीज़ इसमें ऐसा कोई टेक अवे मैसेज इसके अंदर हो जो आप कर सकें।
एक चीज़ अबाउट ग्लासेस, एक जैसे राइट और लेफ़्ट ग्लासेस नहीं होने चाहिए एक शेप के। समटाइम्स ग्लासेस बच्चों के जो होते हैं वो निकल जाते हैं, एक तरफ +3 है, राइट पे +4 है या +5 है, बच्चा आपके पास आता है नेक्स्ट डे, जब आप देखते हो तो +5 +3 में होता है, +3 +5 में होता है.
This is happening very frequently now. Just last week I saw 2 cases. राइट लेफ्ट में लगा हुआ, लेफ्ट राइट में लगा हुआ. मैं कह रहा हूँ यार ये बच्चा पढ़ नहीं रहा है, मैं परेशान हूँ यार, एम्ब्लॉपी थेरेपी में इसकी कर रहा हूँ, इसकी विजन इंप्रूव नहीं कर रही, पहले से भी गया है. अच्छा, आई ऑलवेज यूज चेक ग्लासेस. हमेशा बच्चे पेरेंट्स कहते हैं जी ये कार्ड आपने दिया था, फला ने दिया था. आई हैव मेड इट हैबिट कि मैं उसके नंबर चेक करता हूँ और सेंटर चेक करता हूँ. ये 2 चीज़ें मैंने लाजमी करनी होती हैं और मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम फॉल्ट लाइज देयर.
ग्लासेस जो हैं वो एक जैसे दोनों साइडों पे कोशिश करें, उन एडवाइस करें कि
निकल के इधर से उधर लगा देते हैं. आजकल बच्चे इस तरह के भी हैं. ये भी आप ध्यान में रखिएगा. थैंक यू.
Before we conclude, Dr. Khalid Shoaib, would you like to say anything?
Okay.
Just you have 1 minute to do so, please.
Right. It's so vast a subject, the squint. I only want to emphasize on one point. Before you proceed for the surgery, always take a photograph pre-operatively. And if there is some inferior oblique overaction and which cannot be shown in a photograph, take a short video clip. अब मोबाइल हर एक के पास है, तो मैंने पिछले 8 साल में तकरीबन 800 ऑपरेशन किए हैं स्क्विंट के, और एक पेशेंट था जिसमें प्री ऑपरेटिवली फ़ोटोग्राफ नहीं उतारी मेरे असिस्टेंट ने और एनेस्थीसिया, तो आई रिफ्यूज़ टू ऑपरेट. अब मैंने एनेस्थेटिस्ट का वापस करो इसको, पेशेंट कॉन्शियस हुआ, उसकी हमने फ़ोटोग्राफ उतारी और फिर मैंने उसका ऑपरेशन किया. और इसकी रीज़न क्या है, वो मेडिको लीगल है. बाद में पेशेंट कहता है नहीं जी मैं तो पहले ठीक था, अब तो हालत ख़राब हो गई है. वो एक माँ ने कहा ओ जी पहले भी ठीक ही थी, अभी मैंने वो तस्वीर उतारी उसकी जो प्री ऑपरेटिव फ़ोटोग्राफ, मैंने कहा पहले ऐसे थी, आगे से नहीं बोली वो. ठीक है, तो अनलेस एंड अनटिल यू हैव अ फोटोग्राफ और अ वीडियो क्लिप pre-operative of the patient, you don't have the legs to stand on.
Thank you very much. I thank my panel of experts for their insightful discussion on squint. I hope the audience gained from it, and thank you for attending. Sir, you have to stay on the to receive the shields, please.